As I had such a bad night on Penifan, this video almost got dumped into the recycle bin on my PC, but I had a change of mind, so here it is. Hi, I'm Warren Brand, and this video records the ups and downs of the trip, the good bits as well as the bad. Stick with me and see how difficult it got later on. I parked up on the A470 opposite the Storey Arms. I set out during the afternoon for an overnight stop on the top of Penifan. I have walked around this area so many times over the years, but not stayed out on the top of Penifan. The forecast was fair, only some chance of rain in the morning. Little did I know that that was not to be. This is a popular route and for the most part is very easy going. The first main peak to head for is Horrendous, but up from the road there is an additional ridge to cross first. Looking back over the valley, with the A470 winding through it, the views are great and the ridges and summits of the Black Mountains in the distance to the west are easily spotted. A little further up, the view back shows the ridge and the high ground surrounding the little tarn. Above the tarn, on the ridge, is an obelisk which marks the point where a young lad perished 120 years ago. More about that later on. At this point, on my way up to Horrendous, the weather began to turn. The top of the mountain was getting covered in mist and the wind had picked up. The last section, up to the summit, needs a bit of a scramble. By the time I got to the top, the mist was unfortunately blocking any real views. Luckily, as I dived over the top of Horrendous towards Penifan, I got a glimpse of the targeted mountain peak ahead. It's just a short crossing, down a bit and then back up to the summit of Penifan. At 886 metres, it is the highest mountain in South Wales, with a Bronze Age cairn on top, and a reddish tint from the red sandstone which forms the main ridge and mountain area. Just over the top, I found a flat patch big enough for my tent and began setting up and cooking my evening meal. As the light faded, the weather was just typical of a late summer evening on a mountain, a bit blowy with some swirling mist. However, about an hour after sundown, the weather turned. The wind picked up to whip around the tent and the rain intensified significantly. My summer season Vango Soul 200 was not really the right tent for this night. I should have used my Helleberg Akto. I hardly slept during the night. The rain blew right in through the vents and I ended up putting on my waterproofs inside my tent to stay dry.
Well, good morning. It's just after 6:30 in the morning. been a blustery night. I got myself fairly well kitted up to leave. Last few things to pack away in the rucksack, and then I've got to knock the tent down and then be off. Hopefully not too far, not too long away.
I put my sleeping bag away as that would have just got soaked. Just before dawn, I packed up my gear from inside my tent. The tent I then just roughly stuffed into its bag. As I set out, the weather was just as poor, with dangerously strong winds and lashing rain. Heading back to the summit, I had to keep low and watch my footing as the wind was howling.
Big wet this morning. It's now just after 7.
The water runoff was streaming down the path, and this view shows just how important the little channels are in protecting the path from water erosion. The last bit, up to the top of Penifan, was a challenge in the wind, but I was determined to catch some concluding views of my walk on camera. The combination of water runoff and the wind is impressive here, and the poor night in my tent was forgotten while I tried to get some video shots of this water feature. I think it rained in the night. From Penifan, I decided to use the side path to avoid the summit of Corndu again. This route follows the contour southwesterly under Corndu. The long valley with the Newwood Reservoir is lower down on the left. Stepping out, I kept warm. Even though the previous night had been horrendous, I was still out enjoying the mountains and putting up with what the weather could throw at me. It then occurred to me that the river crossing that I had done yesterday afternoon would be less easy following the heavy rain. I've crossed the river before when it was wet, and I didn't really want to do that again today. To avoid that, and to also visit the obelisk again, I took the northwesterly path, with Corndu still on my right, directly to the obelisk. The stone structure stands solemnly on the ridge just above the tarn. Somebody has left a little wooden brio train at the base of the monument. I assume this is a little trinket for the young boy who lost his life at this spot. It's a sad story and remarkable to think that Tommy Jones, who was just 5 years old, managed to get so lost. After thinking about Tommy for a few minutes, I headed onwards across the rough ground to pick up the path back down to the Storey Arms. This route stays above the river and so avoids the need to cross it. However, the ground here is boggy and was particularly wet this morning. As my morning route approached the path I used yesterday afternoon, I found the crossing point and was thankful that I had decided to avoid crossing at this point this morning. Easy as it was yesterday, this morning would have been much more difficult. As I approached the A470, a squad of young soldiers with packs as large as mine, and probably much heavier, were heading up towards Pen y Fan. They had very focused expressions on their face, but I can imagine they were cursing the rain driving into their faces. Please do click like if you've enjoyed watching this video, and if you haven't subscribed, please consider doing that too. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.